Good morning. A warm welcome to the Humanist community in Silicon Valley Sunday Forum. My name is Alex Havasi. I'm a member of the Humanist community. The Humanist community is a chapter of the American Humanist Association, and humanism is a secular, reality-based philosophy of life that affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good. We value freedom, fairness, compassion, and using science and reason to acquire and apply knowledge. If these words describe your thinking, we invite you to become a member of the Humanist community if you haven't done so already. Membership forms are available on our website. A special welcome to those joining us for the first time. We invite you to continue listening to our weekly forums and other events. You can find all our events listed on our website. And please aid us in continuing to present these forums by donating to the Humanist community. You can find out how to donate to our organization on the website, which is www.humanistsplural.org. Okay, today we're going to discuss how to win a presidential election. So the question is, how likely is it that Donald Trump will lose the election? And do the Democrats have a path to victory? Maybe, but it could require a different kind of campaign, if not a different candidate. And today we'll explore how to win the presidential election with Michael Abramson. I'm sorry, I'm having one of those days. Michael's area of expertise is systems and modeling and simulation, mostly engineering applications. He's also published a few works on modeling social and political dynamics. So, Michael.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I can.
So after I already finished my slides, I learned about this disturbing news about an attempt of assassination of Donald Trump yesterday.
Probably I said last time we were supposed to be there at 7:40, and we were planning to leave at 7, and we were actually like 10 minutes late, if you remember. And we still got
themselves.
What is it? Someone was saying something.
Yes, irrelevant. Please okay. Mute yourself.
Okay. All right. So we are recording this, and for the record, I want to say that I don't see any justification for this kind of political violence. And if you attended our previous forum a week ago, we talked about some political ideologies flirting with the logic of war, and about a danger that we could have this violence during or after the election, and the fact that it already happened way before the election, it's very troubling. And we know very little at this point about the shooter who was killed during this accident. But at least what we could say that not all violence is coming from the right, from MAGA camp. This is apparently from another camp. And this political rhetoric that is demonizing the political opponents, it's very dangerous. So out of millions of people who have access to guns, there will be someone who will take this rhetoric as a call to action. This is probably what happened. But this does not invalidate what I was preparing to talk, and maybe even the opposite. Because my main point was that you don't need to resort to this kind of hateful rhetoric in order to win the elections. So could you go please to the next slide, slide 2? And I don't see the slides, by the way, on my screen. So is it normal or?
I don't see it either.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see it now. So, okay. So I hope you can also see them. So my assumptions are the following: that although I used some numbers in the following slides, these numbers are notional, and they should be understood in the following context. Biden in the slides is a shortcut for a Democratic presidential candidate. Since we don't really know who it will be, most likely still Biden, but if not, any other nominee would face the same set of options and constraints. Biden will likely win the popular vote, but elections will be decided, as it's usually the case, in a few battleground states. And most likely voters matter more for election outcomes than all registered voters. So if you see the polls that include only registered voters or their sample, this is not very reliable. Elections will be probably decided on the margins. In some states, it could be just a few thousand votes, this or that way. And change by more than 2 or 3% in each voting block, I consider unlikely, because most people already made their mind how they want to vote. But even small changes can add up and make a real difference. And my last assumption that I think is reasonable, that political rhetoric during the election campaign, it really matters. It does not matter that much for governance, but it matters for elections. So next slide, please. And we are going to spend some time on this slide. So what you mostly can see in most of these discussions, it's a simple opposition between Democrats and Republicans, and who are better, who are worse, who are dangerous, and so on. But the real picture is way more complicated, and this slide still simplifies it a lot. But anyway, each party, even if we focus on these two major parties, Democrats and Republicans, they are not monolithic. Each party is divided within itself. In Democrats, there are moderate Democrats who mostly support Biden, and there is the wing associated with Democratic Socialists of America, or DSA, that support their own progressive left agenda, which to some degree is aligned with mainstream democratic agenda, but in some respects it's very different. And the same is true for the Republican Party. So we have this MAGA right wing, which practically anonymously support Trump. And we have a moderate wing, which voted for Nikki Haley or other candidates during the primaries. Much of them now could support Trump, but not all of them. They could support other candidates, or maybe even Biden. But again, they share some common ideas, but they are still very different. And also there are others, and there are more others than there are Democrats and Republicans. According to the polls, it varies from one poll to another, but the numbers are around 40% of voters who don't affiliate themselves with any of these two major parties. Some of them, maybe the majority, don't have any party affiliation at all. They are no party preference voters. Some of them support some smaller parties, like Libertarian Party, for instance. And those who have no party preference, or even libertarians, for instance, they feel politically homeless in our country because we don't have a social democratic party, for example. I probably would be a social democrat if we had this party, but we don't have it. We don't have a Christian democratic party. We don't have a green party like they are in Europe that are center-left, but focused on the environment. So our green party is very different. It's very radical. It's not like European green parties. So most of these others are moderates, or rather maybe they are not exactly moderate. They can agree with some Republican ideas and some Democratic ideas. So libertarians are like this, for instance. And 40% is more than, according to most polls, about 30% of Democrats and 30% of Republicans. So the outcome of elections, it can be critically influenced by these others. And we cannot make sense of elections without considering their positions and their preferences. Now, what is different between all these different groups? Republicans, Democrats, moderate Republicans and Democrats, simply moderate, not Republicans and Democrats. So again, there are many things that could be different. You could consider level of education, for instance, the occupation, the wealth, and so on. But I suspect that most of these differences could be folded in one dimension between rural and urban. So rural population is more conservative, and they have to be. So people who are dealing with land, with agriculture, they are always more conservative. Then urban population, this is self-selected people who came to cities for a job, for more diverse opportunities, for maybe some rich experience and so on. And this, of course, is related to education. So we are coming to the cities for jobs that may require certain kind of education. And there is, of course, many like small cities, suburban areas that could go either way. They could be more sympathetic to liberal values or to conservative values or to both. And between urban population, there is some additional split between old and younger groups. And this goes along the lines of more moderate and more extreme, because young people always tend to take more extreme positions on many issues. And if we look further on positions and values between all these different groups, we can find some interesting thing. We can find that MAGA and right wing, which is the core of Trump support, their values are more authoritarian, populist. They are suspicious to democratic institutions. They are suspicious to international institutions like NATO, for instance, or the United Nations. And if we are talking about Trump, at least, you know that he is fond of Putin, and this is probably mutual. So you know that Putin tried to interfere in our elections in 2016 on behalf of Trump. And if you look at the opposite end of this simplified one-dimensional spectrum, we could see this progressive left wing that, again, we talked about it a week ago, which is illiberal and takes very critical positions to the United States and our history and policies. And at least some of them on international level are aligned to Iran and Islamists. But these are these extreme wings. But now if we look at values of all the rest, and all the rest, including the moderate wings of both major parties, and the others who have no party affiliation, here we see many different values. From patriotic position to liberal, concerns about fairness and social justice and democracy. So the values are more diverse, but if we look closer at them, we will find that they are not mutually exclusive. They are compatible. So you can be patriotic and at the same time you can be for democracy, and at the same time you can be for the rule of law, for law and order. And this makes sense, because without this, democracy cannot survive. And you can prioritize safety above freedom or otherwise, but you still would agree that safety and freedom, they both are important. So they are not mutually exclusive. And if we look at attitudes of these moderate voters to international organizations, then our allies would be our traditional allies aligned with Western values. European Union, NATO, and if we are talking about specific countries, say Israel, Ukraine, so this would be what this the biggest block of voters, and the biggest, it means 40 plus 15 plus 15, 70%. This is what they are. And this contradicts to this common narrative that pits one party against another party. And also this notion of polarization as the left against the right, or reds against blues. This is not what we see from this picture. What we see that the main dividing lines are between this moderate majority and this extreme left and extreme right wings of both political parties. So it's not one dividing line. It's rather two dividing lines at the opposite ends of this political spectrum. And it is these extreme wings that are driving much of this polarization and animosity between two parties. But this is how it looks if you look at this from this big distance, like a big picture. But if you take a partisan position, so if you are a Democrat, for instance, from this vantage point, you can see the whole Republican Party as a MAGA party. So you may not see these differences between moderate Republicans and Trump Republicans. They all can appear the same for you. And the same is true for Republicans. They all can see the Democrats as this DEI, woke kind of political party that they despise. Maybe for good reasons, but they don't see the differences between moderates and progressive wings of the party. And so this makes it easy to demonize another party. And this is what is driving this toxic political polarization and creates this impression that it's us against them, where us are Democrats, for instance, and them are Republicans, so vice versa. And here is an interesting observation. So if you run a partisan campaign, if you try to appeal, say, if you are a Democratic candidate, if you are trying to appeal only to your party, well, you get 30% without problem, probably. Maybe you get about a half of this middle, of this moderate wing, not a wing, moderate subset of voters. So you can get this bottom half or top half of this table. So if you are lucky, it could be 50%. And this is what we often see, that each candidate in presidential elections gets around 50%, at least in popular vote. But this table also indicates, could you please return to previous slide, to slide 3? No, it's slide 3. This what I'm. No, no, the opposite way. Okay. Okay, thank you. And this indicates an interesting opportunity, that if you appeal to this moderate bloc, you can get up to 70% of votes. So we are looking at a landslide here, assuming that you can do this. But to do this, it does not mean that you have to be non-partisan yourself. You can be a partisan candidate and run a non-partisan campaign and win almost by landslide. And the recent examples of this, Ronald Reagan ran non-partisan campaign, although he was very partisan president. Bill Clinton ran a non-partisan campaign, and Barack Obama ran non-partisan campaign. And they were very successful. I'm not saying that they were very successful as presidents, but they had very successful campaigns. So there is a potential here that you could choose either to run a partisan campaign and be limited by this something like 50% of votes, or you could try to run non-partisan campaign, and in this case you can get more votes. But how many more, how many less? So let's go to next slide now, to slide 4. And this is not from any particular poll. These numbers, as I said, are notional, but they are plausible. So this is what I consider as a baseline scenario that was before the debates. The debates could change it, and we will consider this later. But before the debate, it looks like this, that Biden tried to run mostly a partisan campaign, trying to contrast Democratic against Republican policies. And he has a lot to show for the policies of his Democratic administration. So that's not a bad strategy on the surface. And he is also strong in criticizing MAGA and Trump. And he tried at times to distance from the left wing of his own party at some instances. But at the same time, he worried about their votes. He tried not to alienate them too much. So he did not look very convincing in this. And with this strategy, what we could expect that maybe up to 2% of moderate Republicans would vote for Biden, so opposite to their own party. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but as I said, the numbers are notional. The majority of them still would vote for Trump because the party loyalty is a big thing for Republicans. And maybe a percent or two would vote for Addison or not vote at all. As for moderates, they would probably be split in this scenario, half by half between Biden and Trump, and a significant part of them would vote for others or not vote. For moderates, I would expect that nearly all of them would support Biden, even now. And Biden is less popular among progressives. They have many issues with him and with his policies. But still, probably 2/3 of them would vote for Biden. I don't think that many of them would vote for Trump, but maybe the rest would vote for some other candidates, because there is a Green Party, remember, and there is DSA. There are candidates like Robert Kennedy Jr. I don't know what to make of him, but some of them could find him appeal. So who knows? But somehow we switched to slide 5 a little too soon. So could you please get back to slide 4? I have not finished with it yet. It's still slide 5. Who is driving the slides? Could you please switch back to one slide? Okay, thank you. No, it's again. No, it's again. It's slide 6, and I want slide 4. 2 slides back, please. No, you are going in opposite direction. Please 2 slides back to slide 4. Actually, you could use the link in a chat and see it yourself and go to the slide, to any slide that you want. But so what is happening now? I don't see any slides at all. Okay, now I see the right slide, but you could make it. No, view and slideshow. Okay. Okay. And so for this baseline scenario, what we would have that roughly 44% would vote for Biden, 44 would vote for Trump, and the rest would vote for other candidates or maybe not vote. So some of them could be persuadable. But anyway, this was roughly consistent with most polls on the average before the debate. Of course, could be 45, 46, it depends on the poll, but anyway. Now, could you please get to next slide? Slide 5. Okay, I can start talking about this, and I hope you will catch up. So one choice, but I need slide 5. One choice that Biden could make would be to run a partisan campaign. And in this case, he would try to appease the left because he does not want to lose their votes and he cannot afford to. But also not to disappoint the moderate wing of his party. And this seems to make sense, but the problem is that Biden is not a partisan candidate. Trump is a partisan candidate. So if you wanted to vote for Trump, you could not wish any better. As a partisan candidate, Trump is doing all the right things. He solidified his base of support against MAGA people. It will always be 15%. It will not reduce no matter what. And he also appeals to many Republicans and even not Republicans who are concerned about the left-wing democratic policies. And so Trump is doing great as a partisan candidate. But Biden is not a partisan. Biden is left of center, but very moderate, very middle of the road, pragmatic, technocratic candidate. And he is at his best when he appears like this. And this is who he is. But when he tries to do not what is his forte, I assume that he will succeed in retaining all progressive left votes. It still will be at 10%. But he could lose maybe a little bit, maybe 1% of moderate votes, because they would be disappointed in him. But they would not vote for Trump, but they may want to vote for someone else. But now we have to recall that it's not all about Democratic Party. There are these moderate voters, not affiliated with a Democratic Party. And it matters for him, the choice between Biden and Trump. And if Biden appears a weak candidate, you know this little secret that Americans don't like weak presidents. You may agree with this or not, but that's the reality. And so this, if Biden appears to be weak, he can easily lose maybe up to 2% of these moderate votes, and maybe one of them would go to Trump, who would appear stronger by contrast with weak Biden. And some of the moderate could also reconsider, who maybe 2% who were going to vote for Biden, maybe it will be down to 1%. And again, some of them would vote for Trump. So in this hypothetical scenario, what we will see that Biden would get only 40% of votes, and Trump would get 46% of votes. So this would be a losing proposition for Biden. He will not really gain anything, but he will lose a lot. And this is not yet what Biden is doing right now, but if he would try to do this, this would not be a good choice. And now could you please go to slide 6, finally? Okay, thank you. And so now it's a different choice that I would call strong Biden. If Biden decides to run a non-partisan campaign, and a non-partisan campaign would appeal to this middle, including everyone except this extreme left and extreme right wings of both parties. And this is who Biden is. And in this role, he would look authentic, strong, and confident. And also, it would reduce the level of this political vitriol and could make him more appeal to moderate, middle-of-the-road voters. Among this 40%, even 3% swing in Trump's favor, in Biden's favor. It's not beyond possible. It could happen. 3% of 40, it's not that many. And those 3% would go from Trump to Biden column. So Trump would also vote this 3%. And to less degree, even the moderate Republicans could also be affected by this shift. And now, what about this big concern about this progressive left wing of Democratic Party? Would they get angry at Biden that he does not address their demands? They probably would. And I assume here the worst case scenario when Biden would lose up to 3% of votes of this bloc. So 3% out of 15, it's a lot. It's a big shift. So I assume the worst case here, or close to the worst case. I even assume that maybe 1% of them would be so angry that they would vote for Trump. And by the way, this happened in 2016 elections when some of the folks who voted for Bernie Sanders, they were so pissed off that some of them voted for Trump. Still, even in this not the most optimistic case, Biden would get 45% of votes and Trump would get 41, down by 3% from his baseline. And so 4% margin, it's already not too bad. And this is not in the best case scenario. In the best case scenario, probably this margin could increase maybe to 5 or 6%. So this looks like a better option for Biden. Now, could you go, please, to the next slide? Yeah, slide 7. And this is what I would imagine how a non-partisan Biden's message could look like. He would start from acknowledging that our country is divided, but not between Democrats and Republicans, but between this all of us, most of Americans, and extreme wings of all parties, and their foreign allies and backers, Putin, Iran, and their proxies. We have to unite. All who love our country stand for our democracy and rule of law, for fairness and personal responsibility, for better life for all Americans. We can disagree on many issues. Let's debate them and try to agree on solutions, as we did. And we already passed some pretty good non-partisan or bipartisan laws. But we can do this only if we have a healthy democracy. This will be my main goal as your president. This is what this election is about. So I think that if Biden said something like this, this probably could resonate with many Americans. But now let's look at an elephant in the room. And this is slide 8. And an elephant in the room is the age factor. So all my previous slides were related or relative to situation that was before the debates. The situation after the debates is different because many more Americans, including even leading Democrats, now are concerned about Biden's age and related issues. With his memory, with his mistakes, and so on. We don't really know what would be the extent of damage because of this. So there are a few polls after these debates, and some of them show that the majority of voters, like 2/3 or even 3/4 of voters, would rather like someone else to run instead of Biden. But at the same time, it's not clear how this would affect this one-to-one match between Trump and Biden, assuming that Biden remains in the race. So I would expect that it could cost Biden maybe up to 6% of votes across the board, and maybe even more. But I don't think that this many of these votes that Biden would lose because of these issues would go to Trump. And the recent polls, they don't show this. They show that Trump stays steady at where he was. He does not directly benefit from this. But with this loss of, say, 3 to 6% of votes, even if Biden is running as a strong non-partisan candidate, in the best case, he will be in a statistical tie with Trump. And maybe he still can win, but the margin of victory is also important. The smaller it is, the higher is the chance of contested elections and political violence because of this. So, as I said, if Biden stays in the race, he still can win. It's possible. But this could be a very risky gamble. Now, and this could be probably my next to last slide. Slide number 9, please. So could we imagine someone else that would be a stronger candidate than Biden? All candidates that are considered as possible replacement, they are much younger. The younger candidate would already be a strong plus. But it still depends on what kind of this candidate. So if someone is running as a kind of DEI candidate who is trying appealing to the left wing of the Democratic Party, then she would not be much better than a weak Biden, because she would scare away some of the moderate, not only Democrats, but not Democrats, Republicans, or no party preference voters. But the good news is that most Democratic governors that are also considered as potential replacements, they tend to be more pragmatic, and they would be authentic and running non-partisan campaigns. And in this case, they would be stronger than strong Biden. So they would more likely win over Trump, and with higher margin of victory. That is also important. And specifically, the governors of battleground states, such as Gretchen Whitmer and Josh Shapiro, that is Michigan, Pennsylvania, they could have the best chance in defeating Trump, not only because they are popular in their states and because they are more non-partisan, especially Shapiro, but they would deliver 2 critical battleground states to Democrats, Michigan and Pennsylvania. But of course, there is a big caveat in all this reasoning. There is still very little polling data on other candidates. And so replacing Biden with any of them still will be a risky gamble. And after this attempt of assassination, maybe it will become less likely. But who knows? It's still on the table. And here is the link to a pretty good article about all potential replacements for Biden. But with very little polling data, unfortunately, because there are none. And my last slide is very short, which would supposed to be a conclusion, usually at the end of presentation. But this conclusion, based on all this uncertainty, it cannot be really conclusive. Democrats have a good chance to win, but only if they make the right decisions. And decisions that they have to make is whether Biden remains in race or not, what kind of campaign he will run, and who will be other candidates if they replace Biden. But in my personal, and this is just my personal opinion, Democrats will make the wrong decisions. The chance for this are pretty low. This is based on my observations of the Democratic Party for the last couple of decades. They don't learn well from their mistakes. I still hope that they will make the right choices. But all in all, as things stand right now, I would say that probably Trump will win these elections, maybe 2-1 chances. But if Democrats make the right choices, then Democratic candidate would win, maybe with even better chances, say 3-1. But if they don't, then Trump is in a very good position to win. He is not unstoppable, but he is not easy to stop. Thank you. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about all this.
Okay, it's on now. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes. All right, I was trying to clip
Michael,
this
can you hear
myself.
Alex? Michael?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. I noticed all the numbers you put out. Are these all just the popular vote? It's not the electoral vote. Is that correct?
No. As I said at the beginning, these numbers are notional. So what matters is how these few battleground states would vote. And there will be always the difference between the popular vote and the electoral college votes. And as I said in the beginning, I'm pretty confident that even Biden in his weakened position still would probably carry the popular vote. But this will not decide the outcomes of the elections.
Okay. Ray.
So this is Ray. I have a question. What do you think would be the outcome if Biden chose a new running mate, specifically one of the governors that you say would be a good replacement for Biden as the presidential candidate? I would think that has some chance of overcoming the concern with his age and ability to last another 4 years. If you had
That's
a
an
running
interesting.
mate that
Okay.
would be in position to take his place, so to speak.
This is an interesting question, but the problem is that most concerns that even Biden supporters are having are specifically with Biden and specifically with his age. And this replacement would not dissuade these concerns. But you have a good point, though, that if we imagine a ticket comprised of the governors of these two battleground states, Pennsylvania and Michigan, for instance, Whitmer for president and Shapiro for VP. This would be like game over. It would be almost a certain win for Democrats.
I was curious when you talked about if Biden appealed more to the patriotic vote. I'm not sure what that would. How do you do that?
Like I suggested, to emphasize that we love our country. We see the problems, we want to fix these problems, but we love our country. That's it. Because Trump supporters, they want to make America great again. They love America as it was like 50 years ago. And it was not really, but that's like the nostalgic vision of America. And the left wing, they despise America, at least some of them. They don't see anything good in America. America is the oppressor state, it's the colonizing state. It always wages the wars, unjustified wars against other countries. And there is some truth in this, of course. But they don't see anything good about our country. And so this emphasizing that we love our country, this would differentiate Biden's position from these extreme positions.
Hey, Zem.
Yeah, hey, Michael. Interesting talk. Personally, I find the progressives to be the most problematic because I think they are extremely toxic politically to everyone. Probably especially moderate Democrats who have to sort of carry that chain around their necks. But there is a good, it may be a good positive aspect to all of this. So, like you pointed out in your slide, progressives, as they are called, usually draw from the ranks of young people. And you don't seem to acknowledge this in your slides, young people do not vote, and therefore progressives don't really matter. I think if you included that in your political calculus, you might wind up with different answers to what kind of policy positions, for example, Biden should or should not take. I remember during the State of the Union when he said fund the police, not defund the police, right?
Yeah. And now, Zem, you are muted for some reason. I cannot hear you.
Because I think Zoom concluded that I'm done talking. No, I mean, you have CRT, DI, BLM, all those things are, whatever you think of them, that are politically toxic, they are not, it's very hard to get behind, getting rid of Dr. Seuss books because they have some drawing that all of a sudden, upsets people. I mean, this is loony, just like the far right MAGA Republicans, right? That they have a product that simply cannot sell nationwide, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, but I'm mostly focused on the fact that young people don't vote. So it's sort of.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. And to some degree, I tried to account for this by putting this 5% into the column that voting for others or not voting. So not voting is also a part of this 5%. But I agree with you regarding toxicity, although I would say that both wings, they I don't know how to compare the level of toxicity. They both are toxic, and they both make each other even more toxic. So it's like a positive feedback loop. And many Trump voters who are not within this 15% of MAGA voters, but other Trump voters, I suspect that they vote for Trump not because they like Trump. Actually, many Trump voters, they see that he is not a good person. They have no delusions about this. But they see the Democrats like what you described, that this ideology generated by the left progressive wing, what is the right word for this? It taints the whole Democratic Party in their view. And so they prefer this bad guy Trump as a counterweight to this toxic ideology. And I agree that it is toxic. And Biden agrees that it is toxic. Because Biden, at some occasions, he explicitly said, no, we are not supporting defunding the police. This is not our position as a party. He understands this. But people choose who to believe and what to believe. He could say this, but they may forget about this conveniently or ignore this or just not to believe that he is sincere. Although I think that in this he is sincere, and he was sincere.
I wanted to comment your characterization as the extreme left as hating America. I think the trouble there is I think the trouble is they hold America to a higher standard than they hold other countries.
Yeah, I think that is true. Yeah, yes. And this concern about human rights, about what they call genocide, this is very double standards here. So they are not looking into the countries that really have the serious problems with this. I don't see much criticism on the left flank regarding what Russia is doing in Ukraine. Or regarding what Hamas is doing in Gaza and was doing always. So they all focus on where it is easy to criticize. It's easy to criticize America. You would not risk anything.
That's trust in the democratic traditions of America, though, that they think they can.
Yes. Yes, I saw someone raised his hand.
Yeah, Carl.
Michael, I just took a trip back east and I sat around a dinner table with that I told you my brother-in-law who's to the right of Attila the Hun. And then I managed to sit around with a whole bunch of listening to a whole bunch of other people that are on the rightist. They do not personally like Trump. They hate Biden's positions as they interpret them. And they also love the idea where they believe that Trump's going to his positions. They don't like the guy personally. Many of them said that, but that's where they stand from what I could tell there. Of course, we're only talking about a sample of 5 or 6 people, not, a accurate poll or something.
Yes, thank you for this observation. Of course, it's not a statistically representative sample by any stretch of imagination, but it is consistent with what I heard from many other Reds Republicans in Braver Angels discussions, in some other discussions involving Republicans. It's consistent with what we described, right?
Actually, I was going to make one more slight comment. The only thing where they're not Republicans is they don't care about the balancing the budget anymore, and that's been brought out many times.
Yes, and that's a good point. And among this 40% in the middle, many of them care about balancing the budget. And this is where they diverge from both Democrats and MAGA Republicans.
I see you have your hand up, Carl. Okay. Yeah, Les.
There also seems to be a split between the Hamas-loving people that ignore October 7th and parts of the, people that believe in the rest of the agenda, but can't ignore the fact that Hamas is anti, has a society that kills atheists and gay people and perpetrated the crimes in October 7th. And the silence is deafening about October 7th.
I completely agree with you on that. And what I can tell you is that many real Palestinians, even including Palestinians from Gaza who lived in Gaza, they know what Hamas is. They have no delusions about this. And some of them openly criticize this so-called pro-Palestinian protesters, that they are ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about. And then I know people who are sympathetic to Palestinians, who want a ceasefire, who want this war to end, or people who are critical to current Israeli policies, but who also know what Hamas is. And they do not support Hamas. They condemn what Hamas did and what Hamas is doing right now. But the problem is that actually it's not one problem, it's several problems. But one problem is that now all these so-called progressive ideas, they come in one package. So if you accept a part of this, you have to accept all. That's one problem. Another problem is that Hamas and these other Islamist organizations, they're very good in the war of propaganda. And they are very good in grooming so-called pro-Palestinian activists in the United States. And there is evidence of these close connections between them. So these pro-Palestinian protests, they look like they are kind of grassroots, but in truth, they are well organized, and the organizers, the leaders, they have close affiliation, if not with Hamas, then with other similar organizations, and ultimately with Iran. And also Iran is very active in funding some organizations and even through maybe other states, American universities, and promoting the agenda. So there is a lot of going on under the water, under the tip of this iceberg, that is not really discussed and not highlighted in the media.
I wonder if part of the apparent support for Hamas is due to the fact that it's the nature of the news media that is burning the American flags and saying America is a terrible country or something like that is going to get coverage. And most of the people who want to object to what's happening in Gaza are not getting the same press.
I don't know. My impression that they're getting a lot of press. But people.
But you still describe them as hating America. So I'm
yes.
wondering is that really typical of?
What I see that not getting a lot of press are the efforts to build the bridges, say, between Jews and Muslims. And to find this, if not common ground, but at least to dissuade this animosity and to help them better understand each other. And at some universities, there are these efforts, and some of them are very successful. But when did you see any reporting about them?
It's not news because it doesn't bleed.
Right. And yes, it's distorting the picture of what is going around. Of course, I agree.
I didn't notice that. Emma.
Hey, so can you guys hear me now?
Yes, yes.
All right. So I have a couple of questions. It's about Trump supporters. You know, you mentioned earlier that a lot of Trump supporters do not like him as a person. Are they those people who will follow Trump no matter what he does? Like if he kills somebody in front of everybody, would they still support him? And my next question is that you say they think Biden is dangerous. What does that mean?
Well, on first question, I don't think that there are many people, even among the hardcore Trump supporters, who will support Trump no matter what. So there are limits. If Trump does something really violent, say, really outrageous, they will not support him. And people who would support him no matter what, like Proud Boys, for instance, that's, in my opinion, a dangerous group. But we don't know exactly the numbers, but it's probably thousands active people in this group. It's thousands, it's not millions. So it's a minuscule fraction. But still the danger is that, big trouble sometimes starts from some innocent events that could accelerate and lead to big troubles. So there is still a danger. But on your second question about why do they see Biden dangerous? So of course there could be some good economic reasons because he thinks that he is responsible for inflation, which is only half true at best. But also they see dangerous not personally Biden, but the Democratic Party as a whole, because they see these dangerous ideas generated at the extreme left of the party. That I already mentioned that Biden does not support them. But for Trump supporters, it's easy to think that the whole party supports and shares these ideas. And they could also see Harris as a DI candidate who is sympathetic to these ideas. And so they worry that if Biden cannot complete his term, then Harris will be a president. And in some sense, this is understandable.
Okay, Helen. Yeah.
Let me lower my hand. I have a couple of things. First of all, I am not really happy with a lot of things Biden is doing about Gaza/Israel and Hamas, but I think Trump is the far worse evil. I mean, it's not really lesser of two evils. It's hugely worse of the two not being that evil. I don't know. The other thing is, after what happened yesterday at the rally, I'll try to put it as briefly as possible. If the roles were reversed, I do not think the press would be saying to the people at the rally would not have been saying to the press that it was their fault. I think these people who said that believe that them talking about Project 2025, which is responsible to do. They need to do that to let people know what the Trump people plan, no matter what Trump says about not knowing anything about it, is serious business. The other thing is that if Biden were injured in a shooting, Trump would not call him. Biden called Trump, but Trump would not call Biden. That's all I have to say.
Actually, I am not sure that this what would happen. I think Trump would call Biden. I can never be sure in anything, but as much as I can be sure in anything, I think Trump would call Biden. As for Project 2025, yes, it's a legitimate topic for discussions, but if you only focus on what is bad with another party and not about what is good you're going to do and you want to do for the country, that's probably not the best position.
I was thinking when you were talking about Biden making more of an appeal to patriotism, whether that would even have the same impact as Trump's comments that this is the worst president we've ever had. Is that going to stir as many people?
You see, this topic about how to win the presidential election, so formally this is non-partisan. So every party has a desire to win a presidential election, right? But the situation itself is not symmetric. Because the Republican Party, they already have an authentic partisan candidate. And the Democratic Party would have an authentic non-partisan candidate in Biden, or maybe in one of these governors who would replace him. If they choose to, they still have to make this choice, whether you can still run a partisan campaign and focused on criticizing the other side, or you can run a campaign that is calling to the national unity of the country, non-partisan campaign. And which of them would work better? That's the choice that Democrats have to make. But from the numbers, it seems that non-partisan campaign would work better. But if we did not have Biden, if we had some partisan candidate for president, similar to Trump, but from the opposite side, that would be a different conversation. It would be a different choice.
Okay, yeah, I should remember that most or a lot of voters actually do look at the issues and think deeply about it before they make their decision. They just don't appear in the polls that much.
Yes, and many of these polls are just, they're not trustworthy. And one issue is that many polls are conducted via the phone or the internet, and people have an option to agree, so opt in. And many people are declining answering these questions. And if a lot of people are declining, then you would have the self-selection bias. So people who agreed to answer the questions, they do not reflect a general position of the voters. And the serious polls, they have to indicate this, how they recruit the respondents. And if they don't, then automatically probably you should not trust this result.
Yeah, I guess statistics are part of the advertising campaigns.
Yes, that's also a valid point.
It demonstrates the popularity of your candidate.
Sure.
Okay. Emma.
So what do Trump supporters think about the fact that Trump treated those confidential documents recklessly? And how do they think about this this Trump inciting the crowds in January 6th?
I am not a Trump supporter, so a little disclosure, okay? But I can guess that a big part of this is.
Your in-laws talk about that? Did your in-laws talk about that?
Oh, I didn't even hear what she said.
Oh, okay, okay.
A big part of this is whataboutism. So they may see all this Trump's fallings and problems and well, whatever. But they could point out at Democratic candidates and say, what about Hunter Biden, for instance? What about Biden himself? Something that he was doing wrong, and it could be like apples and oranges, so not comparable things. But still, for them, it could be enough justification to dismiss the allegations against Trump. And regarding January 6th, first, many of his Trump supporters sincerely believe that election was stolen. So this is a big part in their mindset, is belief in these conspiracy theories, and this is one of these conspiracy theories. And if we share the same facts with them, then we could have a more substantive discussions. Why do they draw the different conclusions from these facts? But we don't share the same facts. So they believe in conspiracy theories. That's one part of the answer. And another part is that there is this presumption of innocence, right? So yes, the media reported that Trump made some statements that maybe if they are taken out of context, they could be considered as incitement of violence. But there is no court decision about this. And until you are proven guilty, you are innocent. So it's like a partisan way of thinking, but well, most people are partisans, to the better or worse.
I was wondering about the whole idea that the election was stolen. And I'm wondering what they cite as evidence. I don't see that as anything other than a partisan position. Whereas we've got recounts, we've got cases being thrown out of court. We've got the mere fact that people who run the elections, who we've trusted for so long, came out with these numbers. I'm curious about why there's so much, or what the basis of support is for the idea that the election was stolen.
As I said, a conspiracy theory. The origin of this could be some anomalies that happened during the original counting of votes. That, for instance, the night of one day, it appeared that Trump was ahead in certain state. When there are more votes counted coming from maybe more urban areas by mail or whatever, and it flipped. So people could answer, how could this happen? That for the one night, Trump was by thousands votes, so many thousands votes ahead, and now suddenly he is behind. So it looks suspicious, right? Then it was all investigated, and it was found all legitimate and no fraud. But still, it's hard to overcome these initial suspicions. And these suspicions evolved into a conspiracy theory that has a life on its own. So it still persists. And also remember that people believe in what they want to believe. And that's universal. It's not only for Trump supporters, it's for all people.
Wouldn't be fair, you're saying, to call them stupid. So.
Sorry?
I say it wouldn't really be fair to just say they're stupid, huh?
No, I don't think so. Well, actually, for this, I have one, but a personal data point. I had a friend who he died from cancer last year. And he was, by all accounts, like me. He actually was my co-worker and my director of our lab when we worked in Russia. He was well educated, smart, intelligent, and when we discussed some political issues back in Russia, we were all in agreement, all in the same page. Moreover, when we talked on the phone with him, and before 2016, we did it almost every weekend. And we agreed on many things, what is wrong about America, about corruption, about whatever. But he voted for Trump. And he was not stupid. And I could disagree with his reasons, but these were not stupid reasons. So he and it was based on what we both agreed, that there are many things that had to be fixed with our country, with our political system. And he saw Trump as a person who would be able to fix them, as an effective manager. That was his view of Trump. So I don't know how many current Trump supporters still see him this way, but I can understand this.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for presenting this, and you've given us a lot to think about. And we'll keep a close eye on the election. And do you have any recommendations for us?
Well, for recommendations on how to vote, it's pointless, since we all live in California. Even if you don't vote at all, it will have zero effect on election results. But one recommendation would be to try to stay away or above of this partisan political rhetoric in all our interactions and communications, and stop demonize the other side. This should stop. Otherwise, we will have more shootings and more assassinations, more violence. Let's stop this. We are not fighting a war with the enemy. We are just deciding who is the best for our country. That's it. And let's see it this way.
I just want to comment. They had an election recently in the UK, and what impressed me is that the former MP, as he stepped down, said his replacement was a good person and he would be working for the good of the country. It was just
yes,
such a pleasant thing to hear a losing candidate say.
Yes. Yes, and we have a lot to learn actually from other European countries regarding political culture. Not always good there, but still they're facing the same problems as we are.
Okay, well, again, thank you. And
okay, thank you for all your interesting comments and questions. That was a good discussion. Thank you very much.